Good afternoon, everyone. Are all the agencies ready? I hope. Anyone late?
Nope.
Ready when you're
Not hearing any
no traffic jams
outcries,
today.
no traffic tips, anything like that. Great. So this is the briefing on June the 3rd at 5 p.m. for the Tantallon wildfire site here in Tantallon in the Halifax Regional Municipality. My name is Dave Meldrum. I'm a Deputy Chief with Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency, and with me today I have David Steeves, a Forest Resources Technician with the Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. Thank you for coming today. For Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency, I offer a brief update. Today's a rainy day. It's a good day. This rain has assisted our firefighters in the field, and we're glad to have it. Our crews worked very hard today. We've got a lot of cold, wet, and hungry firefighters, but they're proud of the work that they do, and they continue to do it. Despite the rain, our crews were really busy today. They've been in several areas of this operational sector where they've been encountering smoldering fires and hot spots. One captain was relaying to me his surprise that even with the rain we've had, to be digging down and finding dry soil and finding flare-ups and finding hidden fires still. We've had a lot of rain, but I think not enough, and we'll hear more from Dave on that. I was asked this morning how many people are still out of their homes, and the municipality has offered me that information to give to you. The population estimate, it stands at 10,224 persons who are not in their homes as a result of this fire. Some messages I'd like to remind folks about during this briefing. Again, the evacuation registry. If anyone who has been evacuated is not yet registered through 311, I implore you to do so. It's important so that staff can get a hold of everyone and pass on the important and critical information that you need as part of the return and the eventual return to this community. Also, there are United Way and Red Cross fundraising appeals out there. I encourage you to take advantage of those. Our residents are going to need all kinds of help, and this is one way that you can help. So if you're able to do so, please consider a donation. David.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Steeves. I'm a forest technician with the Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. So a brief update on the fire situation for today. So our on-site weather that we collect right here in this particular spot, we've collected over 30 millimeters of rain today. That being said, as Chief Meldrum said, we are still finding active hot spots and ash pits and whatnot throughout the perimeter. So even though we've had that much rain, the soils are still dry enough that they're holding heat. And as I had mentioned before, this is not an endeavor that is going to be over quickly. This is going to take a lot of monitoring and constant patrol. Crews are going door to door, yard to yard, doing their very best to ensure that they're making those properties safe. Because of the weather, we were able to make some really positive operational gains today. This weather, while it may seem gloomy, was obviously welcomed and gave our crews the opportunity to do a lot of really good work. They're dirty, they're wet, but the morale here is really good. So this weather has done a lot of good for a lot of people, and we're going to take as much as Mother Nature's willing to send our way to ensure the safety of everybody involved.
Are you still at 85% containment?
Yes, we are, and our status is still at being held. And I mentioned in the provincial briefing I was on at 3 o'clock that the Farmers Dairy fire is now 100% contained and at a status of under control.
Based on what your firefighters are seeing today, have you got a more precise estimate on when you might be able to say this one's completely under control?
Well, I mentioned before that it's difficult to say that because of the amount of variables that comes with wildland firefighting. So there's a lot of things that we have to factor into this, especially where it's such a high urban interface situation. When we leave here, we have to make sure that this place is safe. So we're not going to leave here until we know that this place has gotten the attention that it deserves and that the residents are going to be comfortable with the situation.
Okay, put it another way, the forecast is for rain all this week right through to Friday.
Yep.
What do you think come Friday the situation might be, if that forecast holds?
You know, if we get this, then we're going to be in a good spot if we get it. But this is Nova Scotia. The weather changes hour by hour. So you know, tonight things could be sunny and hot by Friday. We don't know. So we're going to take it one operational period at a time and set our resources to exactly what we're given.
I was hoping you could just kind of describe again what the firefighters are dealing with in there today on a rainy day, what it looks like out there in the fire zone.
It's black. It's black, and now it's almost like a watery tar that's sticking to their boots. Chief Meldrum mentioned earlier that there's a lot of slipping hazards out there. This is dirty work, but this is part of working in the wildland fire environment. It's a good thing that we received all the precipitation that we did, but this is the dirty part of it. So we're going to be in this situation for a little bit, but like I said before, morale's good, and I think the desire to do this work is still there. So everybody wants to keep working to get this done.
What's the work look like? What are the key tactics they're using in this type of weather?
This is all manual labor. They're patrolling. They're looking for areas of concern. They're digging those up in areas where we actually have hose lines. They're using what we call a barrel nozzle. Barrel nozzle reduces the amount of the water flow coming out of an 1.5 inch fire hose and creates almost like a hydraulic auger that drills down into the ground and rips apart stumps and moss and all that other stuff. So this is a very labor-intensive process. But one of the most important in the entire suppression effort.
I wanted to ask you, then maybe I'd get Chief Meldrum to come in as well.
Sure.
Noticing a different mood today almost here. You talked about the morale still being high, but it sounds like it's a lot of hard work. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is all due to the dedication of the folks on the ground, the close working relationship between the agencies involved. We had some pretty nervous moments over the last number of days. And to get this, I mean, as I mentioned before, we are not out of the woods yet. This is not over. We still have a lot of work to do. But the weather has brought us a bit of a reprieve, and the crews on the ground are seeing, the fruits of their labor. So what they're doing counts.
Thanks for that question. Yeah, morale is good. These firefighters are having quite a series of experiences in this incident. It's a big incident. Perhaps the biggest my department has seen, certainly among the biggest, for sure. And so many changes. A day ago, our firefighters were here, and the St. Margaret's Centre has been so excellent to us. And they're going into the rink to sit in the bleachers to cool off. Today, we're putting them in the gym to warm them up and try to dry them out. They've had all kinds of extremes. They've had families cheering for them. They've been hanging Nova Scotia strong flags in this community so that when community members can come back, they'll see a show of support. And at the same time, they're tired. They're coming back, they're repeating, they're starting to get to know neighborhoods that many of them have never been in before. And they're starting to know the streets and know the addresses. That's great. At the same time, there's also a certain routine and monotony to this work. It's go back, do it again. Go back, do it again. We put out hotspots here yesterday, and they're back today. Dig it out. Picks, like this is pick work. This is really that sort of thing. So a range of experiences and a range of emotions, but again, they're smiling faces, they're telling each other jokes, and they're standing strong.
Are there any open flames still?
Today, the open flame, from what I'm receiving by talking to the crews working, were very few. There are a few small ones. Largely, it's hot spots that are evidenced by smoke and by smell, and they see that smoke starting to rise from the ground, and they know, okay, we're going to have to dig that out.
And I'm just wondering, you were supposed to get help from, for example, from the state of New York or New Hampshire that was coming this way, but it seems like you might not need it right now. Do you know if that will be redirected, or do you actually need some of that help still?
To the best of my knowledge, those resources are still coming this way. They'll be deployed down to the southern portion of the province, and then the incident commanders and fire control in Shubenacadie will reassess if those resources are going to be needed. But that's a massive fire. That's the largest fire in the history of Nova Scotia. So there's a lot of ground to cover. So those bodies are going to be needed. The foot patrol alone on that much land is absolutely staggering. So the bodies that are coming, I would have to make an educated assumption on that and say that they're going to be needed.
So just to clarify, this help is going to the Shelburne fire, like the fire right now, not coming to Halifax?
Yes, so as I had mentioned before, this fire is at a state of being held. So the resources that we have here right now on site, combined with the efforts of the entire week, we are confident that the fire is going to make no forward progress.
Will any of the resources here end up in Shelburne?
That would be a decision that would have to come from the commanders and the provincial fire control. But I'm sure that if anything can be released, it would definitely be considered at the higher levels.
I don't know who this could be for, but we're talking about the evacuation zones maybe shrinking. Yesterday at this time we heard an alert go out. We haven't had one today. We heard there's maybe more than 10,000 people still evacuated. Are we expecting to hear any shrinking of that evacuation zone today, perhaps? Can people expect anything today?
I don't think we're going to hear another evacuation change today. We've got significant work to do. Now the evacuation zone includes areas that have been heavily damaged by fire. And there's much work that needs to be done in these zones. We talked earlier about the smoldering hotspots and flare-ups that continue in this neighborhood, in these neighborhoods that were impacted. Significant building damage. You may be aware from our earlier conversations how much work needs to be done to check roads, culverts, electrical grid. There's a range of things, soil, water samples. Some fire investigation activity is still ongoing. So I would not anticipate any changes today.
Will you be getting any help from Toronto Fire by chance?
I'm not aware of any assistance from Toronto Fire coming to this site.
Chief Meldrum, HRM says it could be 10 days to 2 weeks before people in those heavily impacted areas will be able to return home. Maybe explain why 2 more weeks of them being out?
Okay, well, I'm at this site, so did you receive that information from our media relations?
Yeah.
Or okay, super duper. That's not unreasonable. By all means, again, there's this range of activity that has to happen here. If we could declare this fire under control and out today, there's still many, many things that need to be done to make the community safe. There's a lot of work. There's, contaminants and toxins potentially from burnt material in the affected area. Again, roads, water supply has to be, we make sure groundwater is not contaminated. A lot of work like that. And it's fire investigation. Again, a lot of buildings, it's important. It's a responsibility of our mutual agencies to make sure this fire is investigated thoroughly. So yeah, that work's going to take some time. I can't say how long, but certainly we need to be prepared for that.
We thought we heard a helicopter just about 20 minutes ago, but we didn't see it. What is the status of the air assets here, given the weather that's being forecast for the rest of the week?
Thanks.
So we do have 2 helicopters on site and 2 on standby. So obviously they haven't had to have been utilized today, but on the off chance that we had run into something that would have required an air resource, they were here.
But you're not using them right now?
We are not using them. No, this is, as Chief alluded to, this has been all pick and shovel work. They're out there, they're swinging Pulaskis, they're swinging axes, they're hauling hoses. This has been a very physical day for the fire crews on the line, but this is very rewarding work for them because they can see the progress that they're making. We're also continuing to up our cat guards. We still have machinery in the field working to increase our dozer brakes. But today was a good day, so our operations section is very happy with the progress that we've made.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for attending today. So for our colleagues in the media and of course folks in citizens, we're going to have another media availability tomorrow at 5 p.m.